So now, turning to our program, I have the honor of introducing our two speakers today. Kendra Whitlock Ingram is a nationally recognized performing arts leader and the first woman to serve as the Marcus Performing Arts Center president and CEO. She took the helm of this world-class performing arts theater in December of 2019 and steered the organization through the pandemic that not only closed their doors, but reduced their annual income by nearly 75%. Kendra has been forging new partnerships, starting not only diversity and inclusion programming, but expanding the audience, expanding the volunteer base, and expanding the onstage talent pool that, for years to come will benefit the organization. She also created the cultural ambassador role with Donald Driver, which you will hear more about today. In addition to serving on the Rotary Club of Milwaukee, Kendra also volunteers on many national arts industry boards, including the Board of Directors for the Broadway League, as well as the Board of Directors for Arts Midwest and National Arts Strategies. Kendra is also a member of the Association of Performing Arts Professionals, Women of Color in the Arts, Temple Milwaukee, Milwaukee Women Incorporated, and is a full Tony voting member of the Broadway League. Donald Driver overcame poverty and homelessness to become a Super Bowl champion. He's the Green Bay Packers all-time leading receiver. He's in the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame and is a New York Times best-selling author, Dancing with the Stars champion, and an award-winning humanitarian. A top performer his entire career and in multiple industries. Donald is now adding to his impressive background, serving as the Marcus Performing Arts Center first cultural ambassador in the organization's history. The 4-year partnership with Donald Driver as a cultural ambassador will promote the power of the arts, culture, and community engagement by making the performing arts more accessible to underserved youth, families, and communities of color throughout Southeastern Wisconsin. So please welcome to the stage Kendra and Donald.
I don't.
Okay, great.
No. Yeah,
Yes,
I
we're
think
both
all
good
I think
sides.
all my sides look good. I just depends on how I feel that day.
So I love these conversations where we get to, we haven't had one where we actually kind of just talk together in front of an audience.
No, it's always been interviews. So
Right.
It's a little bit different.
So we're going to start with how we met and how this all came to be.
Okay, you're going to start first.
Okay, I'll start.
And then
So
I tag team.
Okay. So just to remind everybody, I moved to Milwaukee. Tomorrow's my 2-year anniversary. I moved to Milwaukee 2 years ago. Yesterday, 2 years from tomorrow will be my first day at the Marcus Center, not from Wisconsin. And starting at the beginning of the pandemic, great time to start running a performing arts center. When everything's shutting down and we're in this crisis moment, but it has been great. And about a year later, we posted. I think I posted something on LinkedIn about Hamilton and the announcement of our Broadway season. So for us, bringing back Broadway in the 21-22 season was a huge deal because we had been closed for 14 months. Broadway had been closed for 18 months. And I get a message from Donald Driver on LinkedIn.
I don't think she believed it was me, though.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I did not. And I say to my husband, Donald Driver, that's the Green Bay Packers guy, right? And he says, he's like, oh, yes. He's like, no, it's Donald Driver. So I respond back, and Donald said something to the effect of, I love Broadway. I've seen Hamilton 6 or 7 times. He's like, it's one of my favorite shows. We have to figure out how to do something together. So after I established that this was the Donald Driver, I think it needs to be the Donald Driver on all of your socials.
Social media?
Yes. We set up a time to Zoom. And that first Zoom call, I was just like, I love this person. He is special, and we have to figure out a way to work together.
Yes, that's how I started. I, I would say this is that I was so excited that first you get the opportunity to I've loved performing arts for years. I remember my first opportunity. I got the opportunity to do it in middle school, and I was supposed to be the main actor, right? But I couldn't create this Jamaican accent. So they said, "Well, Donald, you can't be the main actor because you just can't get this Jamaican voice to go." And I tried and I practiced and practiced and practiced, and all of a sudden, the Jamaican accent didn't never come out. So it was the Texas Southern accent that came out, not the Jamaican accent, and I fell in love with it at that point. But the best part about it is I was still able to be a part of the Performing Arts Center was because they allowed me to go behind stage. And I was the director and producer, and I didn't have to be in front of everyone. So I know the back ends of it. And I just fell in love with it from there. And then getting the opportunity to be a Hamilton fan was like crazy. But then I got the opportunity, one of my good friends, actor Clifton Davis, he was in the Broadway show Wicked. And I went there with my daughters and son, and we fell in love. And I'm like, okay, I got to do more. I got to do more, do more. And then the opportunity presented itself with Kendra reaching back out to me saying, let's talk. Let's figure this out. Let's create something unique. And then I said, well, what do you think? And she was like, I want you to be on the board. I'm going to be on the board. I'm going to be on the board. I'm like, okay, whatever you need me to do, I'm willing to do it. And then all of a sudden, I guess the board said, no, we don't want him on the board. We don't want him on the board.
That's not true. That's not true.
Not like that, but more that they wanted me to have more of an impact in the community that we serve. And when the opportunity came for Culture Ambassador, the first thing I said was, I'm in. Because we have to understand that there's a lot of kids that pass by the Marcus Performing Arts Center every single day that don't feel like they're welcome. And I'll say this, is that I've been in Wisconsin 23 years. 14 of my years playing, and I never walked in the Marcus Performing Arts Center. And I've come down to Milwaukee thousands and thousands of times, but never had the pleasure of feeling like I was welcome inside that building. And there's a lot of kids that pass by that building that don't feel like they're welcome. And so what I asked Kendra was, how do we change the culture? How do we make young kids from the inner cities believe that they belong in that building? And it's an opportunity for them to see that things can change if everyone else believes in it. It can't be one person. But one of my favorite quotes is, when one person stands to make a difference, it inspires others to follow. And I told Kendra this on the phone. She's that one person. Because for her to reach out to me and say, let's do this, it takes one person to stand, and then from there, everyone else is going to follow. So that's how it all happened. And I'm honored to be the ambassador for the Marcus Performing Arts Center.
And you have just been doing, in the short time that you've been doing this, every single time we have an interaction or an activity for your cultural ambassadorship, you just kill it every time. I need to tell you all, he is so, when he says he's going to be 120%, he told me on the phone, he's like, I give 120% to my my projects and my commitments. And he's like, so I'm going to give you 120%. I'm like, okay. I appreciate that.
And say that too. Okay, yeah. Okay.
And he has given 120%. And then I also need to let you know that my husband and I and a number of our board members, I know Jackie Hurd Barber's here today. I saw her, and Janan from Hajib is here from our board. And we went to your Driven to Achieve Awards. And my husband says, first of all, you got us for a couple donations because we were so blown away by what you do. And my husband says to me, you know what he's doing for the Marcus Center? He's doing this for all these other organizations at the same intensity. And this is a true humanitarian commitment to this city. I mean, really, truly. So you may say to me, well, why the arts though, Kendra? Okay, Donald likes Broadway, he likes performing arts. I hadn't seen you on Dancing with the Stars when you were originally on.
Correct.
And I watched some of the videos.
Good.
I said, this is not a football player who can dance. This is a dancer. Donald is a natural, and I say this with no, like, I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it, like I truly wouldn't. He is a really outstanding dancer. Like, I don't know, and we talked about this, like, is it the role of wide receiver where you really do have to be nimble, agile, like you, and have that kinesthetic genius, really, to be able to then translate that to dancing? Because not all athletes on that show have been successful.
Correct. I think it's for me. I think we're coachable, right? I think that was the thing that allowed me to be on the show. And so many people said I was going to get voted off because for whatever reason. But when I told them, I said, listen, Peter was number one. My partner was like, we're getting voted off. She was like, I'm getting voted. You're going to lose, babe. You're going to lose, babe. I'm like, Peter, I don't know if you know, I play for the Green Bay Packers. Like, Packer Nation is not going to let us lose. Like, we won't lose. I'm like, listen.
That's true.
Yeah. I'm like, we may lose in like dancing, but the voting side of it, we're gonna have the highest votes in the history of Dance with the Stars. And it was true that we had the highest votes ever in the history of Dance with the Stars. But I really say I think that was the thing. I think we were so coachable that most athletes are gonna show you're coachable. So I think for me it was a challenge. When people tell me, in life, people have always told me I wasn't going to be successful. I wasn't going to be able to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish. I take that to heart. I'm okay with failure. I tell people, like, I failed my way on that show. I did everything wrong until I was able to do something right. And every week I got better and better and better. When everyone was saying it's over, like, you're going to lose, I'm like, well, I'm going to win. Like, if you keep doubting me, I will prove you wrong. I look at it with the Green Bay Packers, right? There was one guy, and I love him to death. His name is Ron Wolf. He came to me, he pulled me in his office. He said, I believe in you, and I need you to make this team. Well, everybody else was like, this guy's going to get cut. He's going to go home. He's going to go back to Houston, Texas. But it was one, and that's all it took. And I told Ron I wasn't going to let him down. And, when it was all said and done, even I look back and I look at the pro football, the whole Hall of Fame, the Packers Hall of Fame. Ron Wolf gave me a gift when I made the Packers. I don't know if you guys heard the story, but he gave me a jacket that he told me I can get anything in the Packer Pro Shop. And I looked at it. He took me downstairs, and if you guys remember the old building back in 1999, it was a small pro shop, right? And he went in there, he looking at prices, and I went, why is he looking at prices? Like, he was like, you can get anything you want. So I didn't know if I was going to make the team or not at that time, right? So I'm looking at Reggie White's jersey, Brett Favre's jersey. I'm like, okay, if I get these jerseys, I can actually sell them and make some money if they cut me. So I'm like, maybe I grab one of those guys' jerseys, get them to sign it. And then I see him go over and he looks at this jacket. And Ron looks at it and he goes, whoo. He just walks away. He was like, let him get whatever he wants. So I walk over to that jacket. And I'm like, it's expensive. So I said, I want this jacket. And the lady was like, he said, you can get whatever you want. And so I took the jacket. And when I got inducted to the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame, Ron didn't know this, but I gave Ron back the jacket that he gave me, 14 years ago. And I said, Ron, this jacket belongs to you because you believed in me from day one. I gave him back the jacket. So it was not even my induction. I loved it. But it was a moment to honor the man that believed in me from the beginning. So, again, that's why I love what I do on Dance with the Stars. And when you believe in me, I push forward.
He definitely delivers. So let's talk a little bit about your role. So we establish the cultural ambassador role. And then he's like, okay, so what does that mean exactly? What am I going to do? I'm like, well, I'm thinking, let's look at the artists that we have this season. And this is a 4-year partnership, so we're going to do this every season. As a matter of fact, we're getting ready to talk to Donald about what we have in store for him next year, which is I think you're going to be really excited about. So, we wanted him to be here for the opening of Hamilton, and we wanted him to engage with some of our most prominent artists this season who actually are really doing the work to change the face of the performing arts, particularly with more people of color in leadership roles in the performing arts. And one of those artists, which was an incredible night, was when you interviewed Terence Blanchard. And for those of you who don't know Terence Blanchard, he's the main composer for all of Spike Lee's films. He's the go-to, and he's now been writing, I think he's working on another film right now, and most recently was the first Black composer in the history of the Metropolitan Opera to have his opera performed at the Met. Huge event. Just happened this fall. He's actually doing that same opera in Chicago right now. And Donald and Terence sat down and have a conversation about a lot of different things. So why don't you talk to the group a little bit about what that experience was like?
It was, I would say it was unique and different, right? I've always been a fan of Terence Blanchard. And the reason why is that because I'm a big fan of movies, right? And so Mo Better Blues, that was one of my favorite movies when you got Wesley Snipes and Denzel Washington playing the saxophone and the trumpet. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, this is awesome. I get to interview this guy. And we're sitting there talking about it. And I was very unique by asking questions that, how did it start? And he talked about his dad and his family. And the thing that was amazing is that he really said, no one ever believed that I could do this. And he said, I wanted to prove to people that I could be an African American in this field. And he said Wesley Snipes was the first person that gave him a shot and said, hey, listen, love the way your heart is and your passion. And it took him to a level that was unique and different. And we sat there all night long. I mean, we probably could have talked. The light was going off in the back saying, in the conversation, but I was just intrigued by him. And so, and to this day, I would have never been able to have a friend. And Terence Blanchard, we talk now probably every week because of we see that there's opportunities to grow together. And he was going to perform at the Driven to Achieve Awards. He was going to come in, but unfortunately, he had another commitment. But that's what it's all about, right? It's about changing the culture of what we see. And for him to be the first African American composer at the Met Art, that was phenomenal because it's never been done before. And he's proved that his history, his legacy, his tradition proves that he deserves that opportunity. And so for that, we was able to have a connection that's going to last forever.
And I know he's really grateful for that connection as well. Terence is also a big football fan. And when we talked to him initially...
New Orleans fan,
yes,
just so y'all know.
Yes. And we said, Terence he's going to give Donald a little bit of a hard time, I think, on the stage.
Well, I think I gave him a hard time because, as you know, we lost to the Saints the first game of the season. And I just told him when I first met him, I said, listen, I love you, but I don't like you right now. But after we got the conversation, I fell in love with him. I liked him a little bit better.
And he said the same thing about you. He's like, I've always respected this man, but I didn't like him because he was beating my team. But yeah, so he was really excited. I know he was just thrilled to have that conversation with you. The next stop for you is actually tomorrow. So we're doing on the Donald tour for this week. We're doing this event today, and then Donald is going to be speaking with the Hip Play Ballerinas tomorrow, and doing some other activities with them. You want to talk a little bit about what's going to happen then?
Tomorrow, I get the pleasure of meeting five young women that is Hiplet Ballet, and they were on American Got Talent, and I watched that show as well because I always want to be on every show. I'm looking at every show I can get on, but that's another show, and I don't have that kind of talent. But I just thought but those girls are amazing because, as you all know, the culture of ballet is always it's been stereotyped for years, right? That you have to be thin and you have to be very petite, but these girls are not that way. They are women that have thighs and hips and butt, and they look a certain way. And that's exciting because they're changing the culture of what ballet has always been. And so now I get the pleasure of asking them, how do we continue to make that change? How do we continue to see the impact in society where people understand that it's not about how you look, it's about how you perform. And that's what they have. They have a unique performance that they changed the ballet style from being classy to more like, let's turn it up a little bit. Let's give it a little bit more fire than what it's been. And so I get the pleasure of interviewing those girls. And I have a lot of questions that I want to know. And the biggest question is, why? That's going to be the biggest question tomorrow, is why did they come together to create something that now travels all across the world doing? And that's going to be the most inspiring part about that conversation, because you're going to see those five young women talk about what people said they couldn't do, that now they're doing. And so I can't wait.
Well, I'm going to be very excited to see them also teach you.
Say that part.
Oh, I was going to say it. They're going to also teach Donald some choreography. So I'm very much looking forward. Have you ever done ballet before?
No, I think I scored a couple times and they called me tiptoe, but I'm not sure 100% I can get on my toes that way, but I'm all for it.
Well, I can't wait to see it. It's going to be great. So we have a performance of Hipley tomorrow night. There's still tickets available. It's actually selling really well.
Hey, y'all better get some tickets. Y'all want to see me tip.
Seriously, this is going to be really great. They, as Donald said, the Hipley ballerinas combine hip hop with ballet with hip hop, salsa, all kinds of global dance to make it something really unique, a fusion, and to be able for folks to see ballet in a different way. We have a completely sold out school show the next day. So we have 2,000 kids coming to see Hipley, and they're going to see a special video welcome from their cultural ambassador at the Marcus Center. So it's going to be a really great week. We're looking forward to it. We have lots in store for you going forward, and we're now working on a project that's going to take a couple of years actually to develop. We started the conversation this fall. Talk to everyone about the Quickie Books and what we're doing with that.
So we're going to work with the Marcus Performing Arts Center and First Stage to create a play series for Quickie. I don't know how many of you all know the story behind Quickie, but Quickie was my nickname growing up. And what I've always said is people always, again, doubted me, and I proved them wrong. So what I did is I was telling my son, Christian, I used to tell him stories all the night, every night before he went to bed about, hey, always fight hard, believe in yourself. And I started to say, well, I should not just tell my son these stories. I should let the world know these stories. And so I started writing Quickie books. And the first book I wrote was Quickie Makes the Team. And that book was all about inspiring young people to say, never give up on your dream. Whatever you want to accomplish, you just got to have a big heart and follow through. And then another one was Quickie Handles a Loss. It talked about in life, we will lose something. Family member, job, friends, but you keep moving on. Don't allow that to define who you are at the end of the day. And then the other one was Quickie Goes to the Big Game. And it was all about Quickie always wanted to play in one of the biggest games of his life. And he plays in the Super Bowl for the first time ever. And then the last one was Quickie Stands Up to a Bully. And as we all know, that was one of the biggest topics in the last 5-6 years was kids were getting bullied, adults were getting bullied at work through their bosses or whatever that may look like. And what we wanted to do is I just wanted to tell the story. In that book, what was unique about it was Quickie was getting bullied by a guy named John. But the reason John was bullying Quickie because John was getting bullied as well. But the twist behind the book is everyone thinks sometimes it's always girl versus girl or boy versus boy bullying. But there was a twist because John was getting bullied by a girl. In the book, you just never knew until the end of the book because she takes her hoodie off, and that's when you see that it's a girl bullying John, and then John is bullying Quickie. If you see bullying going on and you just stand there and you know it's going on, you're about as worse as the bully, if not worse, because we all should stand up and speak our minds when we see something like that happen. You have to be willing to stand up for others because individuals are willing to stand up for you. And so with that, I want the world to know what Quickie is all about. And if we can teach young kids through this series with First Stage, tell the story. Because there's kids in this world that's going through things worse than we've ever imagined. And then some are going through positive as well. But why not tell that story all together? Because a lot of people don't know my full story unless you read my book or you see me talk about it. Now we get to do it live in front of kids that have never walked in the Marcus Performing Arts Center ever. Now gets this opportunity firsthand to walk in and understand what Quickie's all about. And we're not going to hold anything back. We're going back deep roots to when I was a homeless kid growing up in Houston, Texas. We're bringing it all out in this book because there's a kid that's sitting on the inner cities of Milwaukee that is homeless. And we know that. It's like showing that individual that we care and telling the story because we've seen it. But how do we step up for each other and say, let's make a difference? Everybody ought to have a passion for what you do. We always talk about this is that you got to have an identity, right? You got to know who you are. And then from that, you build relationships. because that's the only way we be successful in life is by building relationships. And then last but not least, have a purpose. Have a purpose of why you do it. It doesn't go backwards. It doesn't mean have a purpose of creating relationships and then have an identity. It doesn't work that way. You got to have an identity first. Because once you have an identity, you know who you are. Quickie knew who he was a long time ago. But he had to build relationships. And that's why I'm still ingrained in the state of Wisconsin for 23 years. But now it's about having a purpose. And the purpose is to make sure that we continue to make an impact in the community that we serve every single day. Because the people see. The people see you. And I'm one of those guys, I like barbecues and hanging out and all that good stuff. I don't think I'm better than no one. It's about showing people that you really care. And I think everyone in this room, if some people know me in this room and some may not, it's what you see and people talk about. I promise you, I am that person.
I can
I
attest
am,
to that.
yes, I am not the one that you think, oh yeah, he's standoffish guy. Not even close. You want to have fun, you want to take videos, you want to do posts, I am all for it. Let's have fun. But that's the purpose you got to have. So Quickie's going to be able to tell that. He's going to be able to show his identity. He's going to be able to build relationships in that room with those kids and those adults. But then when those kids walk out of there, they're going to have a purpose in life of what they should be doing.
So this is probably one of the most exciting projects, I think, of this ambassadorship relationship, because reading those books and now seeing how that story is going to translate to stage, it's just a perfect combination of the gifts that you have already given through your work and through this literary arts now going to translate to the stage. So you can expect, we're in the process right now, so we're picking a playwright, and this is new for you as well, right? We're picking a playwright. We wanted to pick a playwright that really is also going to be able to work with the subject of which is a usual thing. A lot of times playwrights, they have like a very specific story they want to tell, and we wanted to pick someone, first of all, who is a playwright of color, to tell your story through the Quickie Books. So that's a process. We're going to start next fall, starting with some readings to see how the story is going to translate. And then we're looking to launch in the fall of 23. So the fall of 23, which will be the third year of our partnership, we'll have the premiere of the Quickie play. So it's going to be really exciting. There's going to be a lot happening with that. And then next year, wait till we see next year. We're announcing the new season at the end of the month, and Donald obviously will get a sneak peek, but we're gonna keep you busy.
Okay with that.
We're keep you busy. So I think we're probably at the question time. So if people want to get in line, while people are getting in line, I'll ask you one more question, which is, I briefly mentioned your foundation, but if you can just tell everyone a little bit about what the foundation does, because I was completely blown away at the gala for the foundation and the incredible work. Like I said, this guy is doing what he's doing for us. He's doing for like a whole bunch of other people in the community at the same intensity. So talk a little bit about that.
So the Donald Drive Foundation started back in 2000. It really started as a private foundation. I was funding it myself. And then all of a sudden, a friend of mine said, why don't you just open it up to the public and see what happens? And so I did that. And we started to buy houses for homeless families to transition from homeless shelter to apartment houses. And we did that in Houston, Wisconsin, and Mississippi. After that time period, we asked the family that they would supply $200 a month that we would save at the end of the 5 years. We would use that money as a down payment for the home. Unfortunately, as you all know, sometimes it doesn't go as planned. So we end up selling all the houses. We still do subsidized rent and utilities for homeless families that's transitioning out of homeless shelters. And we have helped over 30 families transition from homeless shelters to apartment houses. We've given over 250 scholarships to kids that's going to college, either to a 2 or 4 year college. They must maintain a 3.0 GPA, and they also must do community service. Whatever that cause may be, they must do that. We've also fed kids that's on federal government lunch through Blessings in a Backpack. We have schools here in Wisconsin, Texas, Mississippi, New Jersey, and Louisiana. And that gives kids that's on federal government lunch opportunity to have food on weekends, not just for their individual self, but their entire family. They bring the backpack back on Monday. We fill it back up for Friday. They take it back home. And then we've created the Driven to Achieve Awards. And the Driven to Achieve Awards, when I created that in 2000, what year was that, B? 2013. Yeah, 2013, I guess the year I retired. Forgot about that too. But what I wanted to do is, the spotlight has always been on me for years. And I said, how do I take the spotlight off me and put it on someone else? And Brian was like, I love it. Let's do it. And I said, well, this is what we got to do. Instead of honoring the Donald Driver Foundation, let's honor charities across the state of Wisconsin. That people that don't get recognized for what they do, let's honor those individuals in a big way. And so as of today, we've already donated over $1.7 million to charities in Wisconsin so that they can continue their mission and cause. And every year we honor 4 to 5 recipients that receive $50,000 from the Donald Driver Foundation. And just the stories that we've been able to see impact different charities, from cancer research to homeless families, to education, to, I mean, you pretty much name it. Well, we pretty much touch it. And there's nothing that I feel that, if there's one cause that I focus on everything. If I can make an impact in every single cause in this world, I will. I know that I can't stop it all, but if I can make an impact, and it's all about putting a little dent in it. It's like when your car get bumped for the first time and it's a brand new car, you're like, who bumped my car? Everybody's had that incident, right? That's all we want. Just a little dent in it. And if we can do that, then we're going to be okay. And so that's what the foundation's been doing, and we're not going nowhere no time soon.
You've been doing an awesome job with that, and I'm so glad that we connected and met, and I'm so excited about the future, and thank you so much for being awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. We have some questions.
Good afternoon. My name is Joan Johnson. I'm the library director for Milwaukee Public Libraries, and I want to thank you both for being here today. And it's been so exciting to hear more about the cultural ambassadorship that you're doing. I've got so excited to hear about the programs that you're doing and getting youth, acculturated and feeling comfortable in spaces that maybe they and their families and their parents haven't felt comfortable in. And I want to say that the library shares in that effort, and so much of the programming that we do, in addition to getting kids excited to read and excited about reading, is to expose them to different environments and different experiences so that they don't feel that certain things don't feel so foreign to them. So when you were talking about the series for Quickie, and of course it's books that we would have in the library, I would love if there's any possibility before your ambassadorship ends to do something together with the library to help us get kids excited about reading and to cross-promote possibly the series while it's on stage. So just want to throw that out there.
I love that idea, and thank you to what the library is doing, particularly the Public Library in Milwaukee. Like this, I'm sure you've been a lifeline for a lot of families during the pandemic. And before. So really appreciate the work. Very excited to connect and partner. We will absolutely do that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you.
It's a great idea.
My question is, I guess you're supposed to ask a question. I'm going to ask a question. Is there Quickie Books in the library?
There are.
Okay. If you need more, just let me know.
Yes, when we do programming, if we get when we get people excited about a certain book or title or author, then it does drive up interest, and then we have to get more. So
right. Yeah. Well, and I appreciate too what you said about what you're trying to do at the library of exposing and getting kids excited about reading. We're trying to do the same thing at the Marcus Center. We started the student matinee series. This is the first year that the Marcus Center has had a series where we take the evening show and we condense it down to 60 minutes and put it into the school's bus in to see it. And they've seen Black Violin last month. They'll see the play today. They'll see the great Ladysmith Black Mambazo, the a cappella South African singing ensemble next week. All of these shows have been sold out. We had more, but we actually had to cancel because of COVID. And we've now seen, wow, there's a real demand for this. So I think to your point, like if we can just get people to see that what our goal is to make this a gathering place for all, that we will really start to make the impact.
Love it.
So thank you so much for that
Thank
comment.
you.
Appreciate it.
Hi, thank you for coming today. It's everything you've talked about is inspiring and necessary. I'm a news reporter that writes about education, so these are issues that are really near and dear to me. And this is actually a nice segue from the last question. Everything you're doing is trying to expand access. There's a lot of kids in this city. To your point, Donald, they don't feel welcome at the Marcus Center, but many of them have been there, but they've been there once because there was one school trip for a condensed show. And there's a lot of other stuff going on. But when I hang out with their families, like the Marcus Center is not front and center on their radar. And if you don't hit kids at that right moment, they may never go back, right? So how do you continue to do what you're doing and expand access, given that the whole financial model of performing arts organizations in this city necessitates ticket sales? I'm wondering about that tension and how you can, is it a matter of raising more money to subsidize tickets? What do we do about transportation? How do you get information about these shows so that families both on the north side and the south side, which are typically underrepresented in performing arts audiences, actually feel like they can go and take their family out for a night?
That is a great question. And we hear, I've heard as a new person to Milwaukee a lot, the Marcus Center is a nonprofit. It's like, yes, we are a nonprofit cultural institution. We, like all of our other colleagues, have to raise funds to support our mission-based programs. And, Donald's role has been to really help us bring awareness. So one of the things Donald's doing is really bringing to light, the arts are for everybody. And, you can see things at the Marcus Center with artists that look like you, and that we are a very welcoming place to everyone. That's been your role. Our role now is really to find the contributed support, frankly, to expand these programs, because you just pointed out a great thing. These programs, in order to offer free tickets, the student matinee tickets are essentially free. They're like $1 a kid. We have to fundraise for that. So supporting the arts, not only the Marcus Center, but all of our arts colleagues around town, particularly at this time, is so critical to be able to keep these types of programs that are not funded through ticket sales going. So appreciate that. Next question.
Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Francois. I work for a federally qualified health center on 35th and Lisbon, so on the west side neighborhood. We serve a largely low-income population as well. So I echo all the sentiments that have just been said, because that's the population we work with every day. And they deserve the same health care and the same experiences as everyone. Everybody deserves all of it. I also just went to Pretty Woman this weekend. Really excited to get back in the theater. My husband was very upset that Julia Roberts was not the lead. I said she was busy. But I will say, my husband is a Haitian immigrant, and he felt like he was the only Black person in the audience. And he wasn't wrong. There were others, but I definitely felt that with him. And so my question kind of piggybacks off of, obviously, subscriptions, all of those kinds of things go towards being able to continue funding all these great programs that Donald's working on and other things. And so how are you really reaching out to those of us who might want to become subscribers and other things to really make sure that this is sustainable moving forward? And also just curious of how things are rebounding for you now that the pandemic is not over, as we heard, but things are starting to come back. And so how is that going to be part of your strategy moving forward?
Oh, that's a great question. So, the Marcus Center does a lot more than just Broadway. So Broadway is one of our things. It's definitely one of the things that helps to pay for a lot of our mission programming. But as you've now heard with Donald, like a lot of the programs that Donald is working on are presents programs. And these programs are usually more affordable ticket prices and are also providing more diverse programming, so beyond just Broadway. So if you were to come to Ballet Folklorico de Mexico about 3 or 4 weeks ago, it was like this experience. Donald, I don't know if I've talked to you about this, but a largely Spanish-speaking audience, people singing along to all the songs. The entire talkback was in Spanish. And I was like, wow, clearly there is a feeling of belonging in this room right now. Like they feel like this is their venue. And a lot of people who maybe only come once a year or, for a very specific program, we are now targeting to bring back. So I think with Broadway, it's a similar thing. When people come to Broadway, a lot of our Broadway subscribers, maybe they don't know about Ladysmith Black Mambazo or Hipley or Terence Blanchard. And we're really trying now to, again, broaden the exposure beyond just coming for the one thing that you know about to expanding it to other things. How are we doing since the pandemic? Well, we we were just talking about this. It's been a rough year. It's been a rough year. We were so excited to come back. I think everyone about June of last year, we were all ripping off our masks and no more social distancing, and we really thought this is it. We're coming back. Delta hit in the summer, which forced us to put in a lot of COVID protocols, which were met with challenges, both positive things and also some challenges. And we kind of made it through. We actually sold out Hamilton for 2 weeks in the fall, but there have been some shows that have not been doing as well. And I think it's been, people have been nervous about, should I go, should I not go? Should I go, should I not go? Omicron was definitely a hit, not only to the Milwaukee community, but if you heard on Broadway, there were 27 shows on Broadway on December 15th, and they had to close 17 of them for several weeks because Omicron just ravaged the casts. So basically, cast members were getting sick, and they had to shut down the show. But we're actually doing a lot better. We've been having great sales, incredible enthusiasm over the programs that you've been working on. Tonight's or tomorrow's show, we're going to have an awesome audience. There's still tickets available. But like we're starting to see the trends now picking back up. But it's been, we've had to put rigorous, Donald knows, we've had to put rigorous testing in place backstage. A lot of our cast members test daily. When they're here for like a Pretty Woman, they test daily so that we don't have an outbreak in the cast. Like, who ever thought that running a performing arts center, I would know the difference between a PCR test and an antigen test. And if you were to ask me on any given day what the contagiousness rate is in Milwaukee, I could tell you because that's what we had to live with in our business. We were the first to close and the very last industry to reopen, and we still haven't quite gotten the momentum that a lot of other industries have. So thank you for your concern about that and your support. Appreciate it.
Hello, my name is LaShandra Vernon, and I am the Executive Director at Artists Working in Education.
Oh, yeah, great.
Yes, so we've emailed a little bit, but we already work together.
Yes.
So I've been doing a lot of engagement with you all. I want to first hold space for acknowledging the work that you specifically did through the pandemic around national connections to arts recovery dollars.
Oh,
a lot of us would have never got a PPP if it wasn't for the work that you and several other leaders that had national reach gave us access to here in Milwaukee as local arts leaders. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And thank you. But I'm glad we're still here, right?
Right. We were on several Zooms where we didn't meet, but the work was there, it happened, and I think it doesn't always get acknowledged the way people lead through those kinds of crises. But I do want to point out something really interesting about impact that I think we can go further with. So we come down and work near the space, right, around the Marcus Performing Arts Center, and we do a lot of engagement with families that do come down to feel welcomed there. But I think there's a step we could potentially take in the near future to bring you all into the neighborhoods.
Yes.
So as my work is mostly in the parks, it's mostly we bring a truck full of art, we dump it out into the park and we play with kids, right? Let them explore art till they find their way. But I envision an opportunity with all the band shows that we have, all the spaces we have with makeshift stages. How could we collaboratively put an immersive arts experience together where young people can practice theater so one day they can work at the Performing Arts Center?
100%. Go ahead, Donald.
I'm glad you said that because that was our initial conversation of how do we get more people to understand what the Performing Arts Center even consists of, right? Because when you're outside those walls, you really don't understand it. And so we've talked about going into the community, bringing those kids and those adults that want to get into the performance arts, just don't know how, right? And so we teach them how to do that. And so that was our initial conversation, because there was no way I wanted to be a part of the Marcus Performing Arts Center if it was just trying to change the culture of inside of it, right? We got to be willing to go outside and go into our own community and let the kids know that we're here for them. And so that's what we talked about, and that's what we're going to do. Like, I wish I had a crystal ball to tell you how that's going to happen. I don't. But I think it's just an initial step to be able to move forward with that. And that's what I said. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it. And I'll tell you this. If I say I'm going to do something, I will keep my word. And we got to get more kids to understand that there's a better place behind those walls than they imagine. Because you're right. I think, like she said, her husband felt like he was the only one there. Because sometimes we don't want to change. We don't want to come out of our little comfort zone to see something new. But we also got to let the community know that we're offering something new. And I think sometimes that's what we lack. And maybe, maybe that's what Marcus Performing Arts Center didn't do in the past. But now it's a new day. There's a new journey. And this is what we're willing to do.
And we do have, and I know we're at time, we do have a program called Kids Days in the City, which we do in the summer, where we do come out to community parks and community centers. And I know Quickie, we've talked about taking Quickie on the road to some of those different spaces. So there's going to be a lot more coming with that. That's very much part of our mission, is to get out into the community as well. Thank you so much for bringing that up. We will definitely talk. This is great for partnership. Yes, right. Not just on Zoom. So thank you again. I know we're at time. Appreciate you.